little segment you were doing, and that was the Karl Malone story. I don't know if you have maybe another little tiny one that you could give us, that a brush with greatness that has come about some of your days of being around the NBA, and maybe you could spill us a story.
I've got a feel good story about a dude named Lorenzo Romar.
Mm.
Um, Now Lorenzo, I had my thing pulled up here. Let me pull this up.
Is that the coach from the Huskies?
Yep, yeah. He used to
Okay,
he
all
used
right.
to he used to play for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
Then he coached. He's probably his most famous for coaching the Washington Huskies.
Mm-hmm.
But so back when I was a kid in Indianapolis, talking about shoes again. I was at a
Why not?
I was at a Pacer game, and Ralph Sampson threw his wristband into the crowd, and I was like, I got to get me a wristband. I got to figure out how to do this. So then I started collecting wristbands, and then one day I saw this kid walking through the arena with a huge pair of basketball shoes, and I was like, "Whose are those?" He goes, "Steve Stepanovich," and he was the center for the Pacers back in the day. And I'm like, "How'd you get those?" He's like, "I just asked him." I was like, "Oh my god!" My whole life
I just
changed.
asked.
My whole life changed in those 5 seconds of talking to this little kid. So I decided my new goal in life was to get a game worn pair of NBA player shoes. I didn't care who it was. I didn't care what kind of shoes they were. I just wanted a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And so Lorenzo Romar gets off the elevator on I actually have the date, January 17th of 1984. And I'm the only dude there, first of all, for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'm having like players sign a piece of paper, and maybe a Sports Illustrated cover or two. But Lorenzo gets off the elevator. I'm like, "Hey, Lorenzo," and he's like shocked that I know who he is. We're about the same height, and I go, "Hey, man, do you think I could get your shoes after the game?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I'll give them to you." Yeah, nobody's ever asked me for my shoes before. This is a huge honor for me. Now, I'm thinking that's what he was thinking. So, anyway, he comes out of the locker room after the game. Back then, man, in '84, you could just stand right outside the locker room, and the players would walk right out.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's just right there. There's no
Wow.
security.
Yeah.
There's
No security. Wow.
There's no security. There's no entourage. There's no cops.
So was there a bunch of like groupies, like groupie girls outside there too?
No,
or?
there were groupie girls. They're me and my buddy that were trying to get shoes. Like, that's it. And like people were like, "Are you a groupie?" Like when I would tell these stories, like when I was younger, they were like, "Why were you stalking NBA players? Like, were you some sort of groupie? Like, that's weird." No, it actually I got really cool stories out of it. But yeah, I guess it's
Exactly.
so Lorenzo Romar comes out, hands me his shoes. I got him over there. I'm not going to bust him. I don't know. I got him over there, and he signs both of them. And I'm like, "Thank you so much, Lorenzo. That was awesome." And he's like, "You're welcome. See you next time," or something. He gets on the bus. My mom is like waiting. It's midnight. She's waiting down there. It's Indiana in January. It's like it is in Toronto in January. It's cold as shit.
I respect how you say Toronto, by the way. You say Toronto correctly. You say Toronto, Toronto. Continue. Didn't want to cut you off.
Nice.
I appreciate that.
And so then this is where the story gets a little weird. Is I decided that I was going to write him a thank you letter for giving me his shoes. And so I sat down. It was the night of the Super Bowl. The Eagles were playing the Raiders, I think, that year. And I'm watching the Super Bowl. I'm writing this letter to "Dear Lorenzo, thank you for the shoes. I'll never sell them. That was really cool. Whatever." And I don't know where to send it, so I send it. I find the Bucks post office box or something. I just send it off to the Milwaukee Bucks. And so Lorenzo's coming back to town like 2 months later, and I'm in the Hyatt again, and this time I brought my mom in with me because I wanted her to meet my new best friend, right, Lorenzo Romar. So my mom and I are sitting in the shoe shine stand chairs that they've got outside the elevator. Elevator opens up, Lorenzo comes out, and I walk up to him. I'm like, "Lorenzo," he's like, "Hey, Steve." He's like, "I got your," he goes, "I got your letter." I'm like, "You did?" And he goes, yeah. He's like, I can't believe you wrote me a letter. And I was like, a thank you letter. I was like, well, I did. He's like, did your mom make you do that? I go, no, I did it on my own. He goes, is this your mom? And I go, yeah. He goes, come here. And he pulls my mom over. He goes, you raised a good kid right here.
Oh,
man. This kid wrote me a thank you letter on his own. And she's like, yeah, I guess. Like, she didn't know what was going on. And he's like, you raised a good one. And he's like, pleased to meet you, da da da. And I was like, play good tonight, Lorenzo. And he walks off. And then we got back in the car and went home. But I thought that was a pretty cool story.
I think we all need to give a big salute to Lorenzo for that one, because that's cool.
Big salute to Lorenzo.
Oh man, that's a cool story. I like that. Well, you know what? Let's